Hey guys, and welcome to week 9 of International Business. 3/4 of the way through the semester already, and as you can see, this week we are looking at the topic of strategy. As you can see, it doesn't matter whether you're sporting commentators or an evil mastermind looking to take over the world, strategy is crucial in ensuring success, and it's absolutely the case within international business as well. And so today we're going to focus on why it's so important and hopefully give you guys an understanding of how it helps ensure success within your international business. So given that, we're obviously going to explore what we mean when we talk about strategy, how firms actually create value, which is a core component of any firm's strategy, understand the importance of strategic positioning in ensuring success within international business, look how firms are able to profit by expanding globally. Of course, this is a key concern within this unit. Analysing the two competitive pressures that influence a firm's strategic choice in international business, and finally look at the actual different strategies themselves that firms can employ when looking to compete and be successful in that global marketplace. Alright, so as always, we need to start by understanding what it is that we're actually talking about. And for this week, strategy can be defined as the actions that managers must take to attain the goals that the firm is trying to achieve. Now, of course, for most firms, the main goal is going to be to maximize the value of the firm for its owners and make as much money as it can effectively. Of course, if you're a charity or a not-for-profit firm or a government-run enterprise, then this may not be the goal, but certainly for privately owned firms, this is what they exist to achieve. Now, in order to do that, firms need to pursue strategies that increase profitability, firstly, and then secondly, profit growth. Now, profitability can be defined as the rate of return that the firm makes on its invested capital, which is calculated in turn by dividing the net profits of the firm by the total invested capital. So it's obviously the money that is made by the firm above which it has invested to make it's whatever it is that it produces. Profit growth, on the other hand, is the percentage increase in net profits over time. So not surprisingly, it's how much this profit increases by as we move forward. We can depict this in a diagrammatic representation on the screen here. So obviously within international business and strategy broadly, to be honest, these two concerns of profitability and profit growth are central to what we're looking for as a firm. We're going to look over the next couple of slides how you can achieve and enhance your profitability, and this is typically done by either reducing the costs or adding value and therefore being able to raise your prices, or while profit growth is usually driven by either selling more of what you make in your current markets, or, and this is the especially important bit from an international business perspective, entering those new markets and finding existing people to sell your products to. As I said, let's focus first on the profitability side. And the key focus here in terms of increasing that profitability is through creating more value. Now, the amount of value that a firm creates can be measured by the difference between its costs of production and also the value that consumers perceive in its products. So it is a relatively subjective thing in that it is determined and influenced by how much customers perceive to be offered by the firm and its products. According to a famous theorist within strategy, Michael Porter, who we've touched on previously in this unit and will also encounter in the coming weeks as well, there are two basic strategies for creating value and attaining a competitive advantage within any industry. And these, I say, these are two very broad general approaches, but they do underpin a lot of what firms aim to achieve here. And the first strategy is a low-cost strategy. And this is when firms effectively try to create profits by creating value at a lower cost than its competitors. The key point here is that it's a low cost, not necessarily a low price strategy. There usually is some correlation between the two. If you're able to lower your cost structure, then typically that means you can still maintain a profit with a lower price than many of your rivals. But you can only do that if you have that lower cost. So remember, it's lower cost, not necessarily lower price. One way to remember about the low-cost strategy is that can be looked at as doing things differently. So you're effectively doing the same thing as your rivals, you're just doing it at a lower cost, that is, differently. And we've got some prominent examples here. Aldi are a great example of a firm who have pursued a low-cost strategy. Everything in their stores is very basic. They don't spend anything other than what is necessary to be able to sell their products, and that is inherent in not just their stores, but also their levels of stock, the way they have low levels of stock on hand. They're constantly turning that over, and throughout pretty much all aspects of their organisation. Another good example of a low-cost firm is Rivers, who are a clothing and apparel firm, and they have made a real point of emphasizing exactly how low cost and cheap their products are, and it's depicted very clearly in this little video that I've attached at the top of your screen here. So there you go. So they're clearly highlighting that there isn't a whole lot going for their shoes there, and they're even ugly, as they said in the video, but they're cheap. And they're able to do that by emphasizing their low-cost structure, the fact that they have such simple videos with just a guy doing a very simple voiceover of an ad for ugly shoes emphasizes this. So they're another great example. One final company example here of a low-cost strategy firm that I have for you is depicted in this image here. If we can get it to come up. There we go. Does anybody know where that is? Where they sell ridiculously large, oversized chocolate bars? It is Costco. Some of you may have been there. It is a wonderful, wonderful place full of wonderful and weird things like a massive box of chocolate. If you have been to a Costco store, you'll have noticed that it is very much a warehouse type setup. There's not a lot of frills or thrills going on there. Everything is ordered in bulk and purchased in bulk. There is very low levels of inventory that's held, and everything is just very basic. So that helps them achieve a very low cost structure, which means that they can then pass that on to the consumer in the form of low prices. So you can buy a heinous amount of chocolate for a very small price. The opposite strategy to a low-cost one is a differentiation strategy, and this focuses primarily on increasing the uniqueness and attractiveness of a product so that consumers value it more highly than others and are prepared to therefore pay a higher price for it. So here, unlike with a low-cost strategy where the focus is on that cost structure, and doing the same things but just more cheaply, here it may be seen as doing different things. So you're trying to add a sense of specialness or uniqueness or attractiveness to what it is that you offer, doing something that is simply not offered by your rivals or competitors. And that means that people are generally willing to pay more for it, given that they perceive it as offering greater value. So we have a few company examples here. Rolls-Royce obviously have very highly priced products because they have a certain sense of luxury and very positive brand perception associated with their company, as well as certain features that you just cannot get in cheaper cars. Rolex are the same. They have very high brand values. They've got a very strong brand with very high build quality and some features which you just cannot get in cheaper watches. And then there is this company. Oh, look at that picture. The guys watching the video are just shuddering at the thought of that little blue box. Of course, we are talking here about Tiffany, and they offer effectively the same general thing when you think about it as many other jewelry companies, but they have, especially for them, that brand. It's all about the brand and the packaging, indeed. The fact that you can instantly recognize that box as being a Tiffany box highlights that they have that sense of uniqueness, which their rivals simply cannot offer. So because of that, people are willing to pay more for them. Right, gents? That's exactly right. So these are the key two strategies that Porter outlined to best enhance your chances of profitability. Let's look now at the issue of strategic positioning, which is equally important in ensuring that profitability for a firm. So as it says here, it's important for a firm to be very clear and explicit about its choice of strategic emphasis with regard to value creation. So your positioning is important in strategy just as it is in life. Getting that positioning right is really important in avoiding not only awkward situations like in our picture here, but also guaranteeing success within international business. So the management of firms here need to decide where the company wants to position itself with regards to those variables of value on one hand and cost on the other. So to maximize profitability, a firm needs to do three things. Firstly, select a position on the efficiency frontier that is seen as viable in the sense that there's enough of demand to support that particular choice. Secondly, to configure your internal firm's operations so that they support that decision and your chosen position. And finally, to make sure that the firm has the right organizational structure in place to execute the chosen strategy. Now, we don't focus so much on that third point, given that it tends to be outside the realm of this unit of international business, but we are going to touch on the next couple of slides on those first 2 points. Alright, so ensuring that you're in the right and viable position on that efficiency frontier, as we talked about on the last slide, is really important for your international business strategy. And to illustrate our point here, let's focus on an industry example, in this case, the international hotel industry. Now, when you go to decide whether you're going to focus on more of a differentiation strategy or a low-cost strategy, either is perfectly acceptable, according to Porter and a lot of research, but you do need to get the balance right. And that acceptable balance can actually be depicted as a curve going down the screen, as you can see here. So that is the efficiency frontier. So within this particular industry, as you can see, Four Seasons has chosen to be a differentiated brand. They have high levels of differentiation up on the vertical axis, but that means they usually have, or they do have, a high cost, which means as long as they sit on that frontier, that is fine. The Marriott, on the other hand, has a lower cost structure, as you can see down here. They've gone further towards lower cost, which means that they actually have less differentiation. They're focused on that low cost strategy, but because as long as they have the low cost and offer less features, that is deemed as okay because it's still on this efficiency frontier. The problem arises if you attempt to position yourself like Starwood. So they have the same level of features or differentiation or value as the Marriott, but they have, as you can see, a higher cost than the Marriott. That means that they are not positioned on this efficiency frontier. They have too high a cost for their relative value and differentiation, which means that they are not seen, which means that's going to limit and inhibit their ability to be successful in terms of their chosen strategy here. The final activity or final choice you need to make as a firm in terms of your strategy and enhancing profitability is configuring your firm's operations to support your position along that frontier between differentiation and low cost. And a useful strategy tool to help illustrate how firms may choose to configure their operations is the value chain model. And this dictates that any firm's operations can be seen as a value chain which is composed of a series of individual distinct value creating activities. So effectively looks to break down a firm's operations into a range of activities, and as you can see here, they are either primary activities or support activities. The primary activities are the things that are necessary to do whatever it is that the firm produces or sells, while the support activities enable those primary activities to happen. Now, there are many different versions of the value chain model, so we're not going to go into each activity individually. But the key takeaway here is that You need to identify as a firm which activities are going to be most useful to you and in helping delivering that value. So if you're pursuing a low cost strategy, for example, you might focus on the production activity and lowering your key costs there. If you're a differentiated firm, on the other hand, you might, for example, focus on investing in marketing and sales and customer service to enhance that sense of uniqueness and added value